Dear Lord, to thank you for the day, for the blessings you've given us. Thank you for the students here. Just pray you may help them in their classes. Just pray you give us a good day today. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, anybody have any questions on your homework last night? Excuse me? Either one. Well, the one from Wednesday, I need to just collect some of these later.
Was there extra credit?
What's that?
Was there extra credit?
Wednesdays was not, no.
What we had homework for?
It was classwork. I said it was due on Friday.
Oh.
I do have a question, but,
Okay.
for 19, I know what the right answer is, but I also don't, so,
Number 19, f over g of x. Is that correct?
yeah.
So 2 minus x over 1 over x.
Yeah.
So if you're going to simplify that, what are we going to do?
It'd be 2 minus x times x.
Correct? All right, so what was the domain of 2 minus x?
2 minus x would be all real.
What was the domain of 1 over x?
X is not equal to 0.
So therefore, what is the domain of my result?
Yeah, no problem. It would be x does not equal 0, right?
Correct.
But if it was 0, couldn't you still get to the simplified version?
Here, the simplified version, yes, but the non-simplified version we get undefined. So remember, we're combining functions, so the result would have the same domain as the individual functions together.
But you would still be able to get an answer if it was 0.
You could, but if we would look at that graph-wise, we wouldn't be able to. Okay, so there's a little bit more to it, so we're leading up to that, but it will be a while before we get to that. So we just need to remember that when we are combining functions, that I'm going to look at my individual functions and again take the lesser of the two evils. Even though, yes, that looks like, hey, we can use any number here. But what if we didn't have it simplified? We had this here, but we can't use 0 here, so it won't work. So, any other questions? What's that? I need to collect it first. Oh, the only way I would answer that if you don't write anything on your paper, you write it in pen, not pencil, because I'm grading that assignment.
Okay.
So do you want me to answer it?
Yeah,
Which one?
it was 24.
All you're going to do here, you're going to plug in the volume for V itself. What did they say the volume was?
9,000 feet squared.
Alright, that's going to equal 6 times 9,000 over pi. Punch in your calculator. Give your answer. You got 25.8 feet. Any others?
No.
Alright, pass those forward, please. Go ahead and pass both of them. One from Wednesday, 395, and the one from last night.
What were the questions from last night?
9 through 25 odd. You know how last night's?
No, I forgot to write down the questions.
Well,
Yes, sir.
so should I turn in, I
Yes,
think
sir.
I'll do Wednesday on Monday.
Yes, sir. If you want credit for it. Alright, let's look at some more combining functions. Talked about yesterday, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. Today we want to talk about composing functions, composition of functions. There's two notations for composition of functions. The top one is a little bit more easier to understand than maybe the bottom one, but the bottom one is pretty easy to understand as well. Take for instance, if I had f of x equals 3x plus 2 and g of x equals 3x squared. If I ask you to evaluate f of 2, what would you do? If I asked you to evaluate f of 2, what would you do? Function notation.
X is.
Put 2 in for x,
Where?
for the f function.
Alright, in the f function, we're going to put 2 in for x and then evaluate, which would make it what? 8. I asked you what was g of negative 1, what would you do?
Put negative 1 in for x in the function.
Okay, which that would make it answer 3. So therefore, when I ask what is f of g of x, what are they asking us to do?
Put g of x in for x.
Put g of x in for x. So in this case here, I would take the 3x squared and put it in for the x to get an answer. That would be 3 times 3x squared plus 2, which would be 9x squared plus 2, which would be my answer. Well, f circle g of x is the same notation. It means the same. When I see f circle g, that tells me I'm going to take the second function and place in for all the x's in the first function. Alright? So make sure that remember that we're not just doing it for the one function, we're doing it for all the functions. Okay? Now what if I asked you to do what are they asking me to do?
Put 3 in for x in a g function and then put that into all of the functions.
Alright, when you say that, what does that mean?
Put the answer of
Absolutely correct, yes. So they're asking us to put 3 into the g function, get an answer, take that answer and put it into the f function, and get the final answer. So I put 3 in here, I get what?
27.
27. I'll put 27 in here, I get what? 83. Now let's take a look at this. That equals 83. What if I just put the 3 in for the f g of x? If I put 3 in for x, what do I get? 83. Works out the same. It works out the same. Okay? But a lot of times it's easier to do it this way. That way if I don't have to get the expression, I don't wanna have to worry about that. I can just put it in the first function, get an answer, take that answer, put it in the second function, when we do in compositions. Now, that's fairly simple. Alright? But when I deal with domain, that takes a little bit more thought to it when we deal with domain of compositions. Because domain means what? What does domain mean?
What's the X one? Or what X can be?
Tells me what x can be, or what I am allowed to use for x. If the domain is all real numbers, I can use any number I want. If the domain is greater than or equal to 0, then I can't use negative numbers. Alright? If the domain is anything but 0, then I can use anything but 0. So when we get to compositions, we have to deal with the range. Alright? Deal with the range. This one's pretty straightforward because g of x, what am I allowed to use? All real numbers. What kind of answers do I get when I use all real numbers and 3x squared?
Is it positive?
I get positive numbers. Do I ever get negative numbers? No. Do I get 0?
Yeah.
Yes. So I get all greater than or equal to 0 for my range. Well, again, what we did before, we put the 3 in to get an answer, and then took the answer to put into my other function. So when I'm dealing with domain, I gotta keep that in mind. Alright, I can use all real numbers. What do I get? I get positive answers. Am I allowed to use positive numbers here? Yes. So therefore my domain for my composition would be all real numbers. Because when I use all real numbers, I get answers that I'm allowed to use in the second function. So let's see how that would change. Okay, so here are my functions. G of x equals 2x minus 5. F of x equals the square root of x plus 3. What's my domain here? 2x minus 5. All real numbers. What's my domain here?
Oh, greater than or equal.
Greater than or equal to 0?
Not quite.
Oh, greater than or equal to negative 3?
Yes, greater than or equal to negative 3. Okay, so if I have f circle g of x, what is that telling me to do? Okay, without any numbers, but that's really telling me to do what?
All together?
Put g of x into x in the f function.
Alright, put g of x into the x in the f function. I'm not sure, is that what you said, Tyler? I couldn't quite hear you good enough, sorry. So we're gonna do that, square root of 2x minus 5 plus 3. 2x minus 2. Alright, that's the simple part. We all can do that. The domain part takes some thought. Put g of x into f of x. What am I allowed to use for g of x?
All real?
All real numbers. What kind of answers do I get?
All real.
All real numbers. Can I use all real numbers in the f of x function? No. What numbers am I allowed to use?
Anything greater than 3.
Anything greater than or equal to negative 3. So therefore, I need 2x minus 5 to be greater than or equal to negative 3. When I solve that, 2x is greater than or equal to 2, x is greater than or equal to 1. So my domain here is x is greater than or equal to 1. So when I look at my domain, I need to make sure that the first function equals something that I'm allowed to use in the second function. Let's switch it around. G circle f of x. What do they ask me to do?
Put f of x enter x in the G function.
So there's what it looks like. Alright, we can do that. But my domain is the next question. What is my domain here?
X is greater than or equal to -3.
What kind of numbers do I get?
Whole numbers,
What's that?
whole numbers, real numbers, rational.
They would be rational, but I need it. What's that? Positive answers. Or zero. Alright? Those are the kind of answers I would get. Am I allowed to use those answers into this function? Yes. So therefore my domain would be whatever the domain of the first function is. Yes, sir.
What exactly does the circle do?
What's that?
What exactly does the circle mean?
It just shows you composition.
So F circle G means,
You put G in for F. G circle F means you're putting the F inside the G.
okay.
This is another answer. Example. Okay? What's my domain here?
X is greater than or equal to -2.
X does not equal -2. What's my domain here?
X is greater than or equal to -2. Greater than.
Okay. What kind of results do I get here? You know, 1 over x plus 2. What kind of results do I get?
Anything other than
No, think about it a little bit more. What's that? Anything other than 0. What kind of results do I get here? Okay. So there's my domain and there's my range for both of them. F circle G of x. telling me to do what?
Putting G in for X.
Put G in for X, so that's gonna equal 1 over the square root of X plus 3 plus 2. Now they don't want us, we don't have to simplify this, even though we know that we can't have a radical, but here we can leave it the way it is. Okay? So I'm taking this and placing it into the F. My domain is greater than or equal to -3. What result do I get? Anything bigger than 0. Am I allowed to use anything bigger than 0 in this function? What's that? No, look at the domain. What am I allowed to use? I'm allowed to use anything but -2. So, does everything greater than 0 fit for anything that's not equal to -2?
Yeah.
Yes. So therefore, what is my domain? My domain would be exactly what this is. Because that result gives me everything that I'm allowed to use. Doesn't give me everything, but it gives me everything it gives me I'm allowed to use. That goes the other direction. G circle F tells me to do what? Alright, put F in for G. That's going to be the square root of 1 over X plus 2 plus 3. Again, I don't necessarily have to simplify here. We could get a common denominator. And get this, 3x plus 7 over x plus 2 square root. I'm not too concerned about that. I'm concerned more as do you know how to compose. Alright, so again we got here. What's the domain of my first function? Everything but -2. What do I get?
Anything other than 0.
I get anything other than 0. Am I allowed to use anything other than 0 here? No. I need to make sure everything is greater than -3. So how do I figure that out? I go back and take the function 1 over x plus 2 and say it must be greater than or equal to -3. How do I solve this? I cross multiply. How do I solve? Let me bring the 3x over here. That's 3x is greater than or equal to -7. Divide by x, -7/3. So for me to make sure that this is greater than -3, I need to make sure that x is greater than or equal to -7/3. So what is my domain here? X is greater than or equal to -7/3. Okay? So that's what we're doing. Alright, we'll look at more of this on Monday. As far as homework, all they're asking you to do is to compose. They're not necessarily asking you for domain and range. For the addition, subtraction, and multiplication, they are. But as far as composing, they will not. That is something a little extra I gave you to do. So what I want you to do this weekend for your homework, I want you to finish what was for Thursday. All right. So you did 9 through 25 odd. So now you're gonna go from 27. The rest of those problems there. So 27 to 44 every other odd, and then 47 to 57 every other odd, and then 63 to 70 every other odd. Does that make sense to everyone?
So.
Alright, it's gonna be exactly what Thursday night's homework is, except for the ones that you did last night. Okay? So you did up to 25, so therefore you're gonna start at 27. 27 through 44, every other odd, and so on. Okay? Alright, so let's do our quiz.